Welcome, everybody, to this week's episode. We really appreciate you joining us. This podcast really shows us how we can all learn, live, and thrive off of each other. By sharing our knowledge through our conversations, we will impart some knowledge whilst learning ourselves how to progress even further. Here is your host.
The Rich Our Lives podcast. I'm Mary Scott. Big welcome to all of you, all of our listeners. It's very exciting. We're getting plus 30 plus podcasts now. We're moving to 40. It's absolutely wonderful and heartening to read all your feedback. So thank you. My guest today is quite remarkable, is how I'm going to say it. Her name is Amanda Hill. And Amanda was born back in the 70s when premature babies were sometimes considered not viable. And she was born 14 weeks prem, my goodness, holy manoli, you know, and her dad could hold her in his hand. I said that slowly so you can take that in. That's remarkable to kick us off. But, you know, wait, there's more. She was a talented, what should I say, student, diligent student. She went on to be highly academic, studied as a physiotherapist, and more about that in a minute. And then her second career, and now she's on to her third, and she might be able to tell us other things that I don't know about. But she then went on to do a degree in law with honours, which is quite outstanding, has a 17-year, what should I say, history as a legal person, a solicitor. And you know what, something else about Amanda is that she's a life purpose expert, a published author. You know, I could go on, but I'm going to let Amanda reveal some more to you today. A big welcome to you, Amanda. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, and thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be on your podcast.
Oh, it's my privilege, exactly. Now, I was thinking, where are we going to start? A little prem baby, my goodness, smaller, you know, fit in your palm of your dad's hand. And because of things back then, the oxygen was not as great as we would like for those little babies. My goodness, you know, I've seen some premies, but never that small. But what happened as a result of that? It left you blind. Is that correct?
That's correct. So I was, to put it in, I was 1 pound 9 ounces, wow, or 750 grams, and I was 23 centimeters or 11 inches long, or 10 inches long. So yeah, Dad was able to sort of hold me on his hand. And I was one of twins. And so the oxygen, they couldn't measure it like they can now. And so, you know, as I like to say sometimes, they didn't know that too much was a problem, but as we all know, you can have too much of a good thing. And so the oxygen caused my retinas to bleed, scar, and detach, causing total blindness.
My goodness.
But at least I'm here to tell the story. My twin didn't survive.
Wow. So what do you think kept you alive?
I suspect I've been a fighter since I came out, because Mum was saying that they had to put mittens on me because I kept trying to pull my tubes out and climb up the side of the crib. Hey?
Were you the first baby to pop itself out?
I don't know who was first. I've never asked that question. I'll have to find that out.
But you came into the world as a feisty woman, and, you know, I don't know you that well, but I know you a little. I don't think much has changed with that, Amanda. You're still feisty.
Well, yeah, I like to say that if you tell me something, if you tell me I can't do something, I'll do my level best to find a way.
That's right. That's certainly my experience. And, you know, how long did it take you? And you might not know this, but I'm just curious. how long did it take you to get up to a weight that was similar to a child in terms of, key markers along the way when you were, so many months, so many years? How long did it take? Do you know?
I was in hospital for 3 months, and then I went home, but apparently it took me till I was about 7 or 8. I was a very small child, a little child. And so, so I think mum was still like picking me up when I was like 5 or 6. So I was quite small, but apparently I sort of caught up by the time I was around about 8.
Oh, that's good. I was just curious. That's
Yeah.
fabulous. You're quite an academic. Does that run in the family, or is that just Amanda straight out talented?
My dad was pretty academic. He was in the army and he studied as a navigator. So, and then he used to teach navigation. So, yeah, he was pretty bright and pretty academic, and he would sit with me and help me write my essays, and until I got to uni, and then he tried to help me, and it's like, no, you don't, you can't help me anymore.
Yes.
But he taught me some very good skills, and he taught me a very good work ethic, which is for the most part is a good thing, but sometimes is not. He always said to me, as a blind person, in order for you to compete on an equal ground with your sighted peers, you have to be better, stronger, faster, brighter. You have to work harder. And so that was drummed into me. Ah, shush, stupid phone. There. Sorry about that.
Oh,
Yeah, he told me I had to be better than my sighted peers in order to be equal to them. So I've always been like really stubborn, and I've always like worked hard and harder and longer, and
yes.
yeah.
It's interesting, isn't it? I guess it's very subjective as to whether that actually helped you. You say you're stubborn, and so you're attributing that to your dad's advice, let's call it. But, it's interesting. It's such a thing to say, isn't it, of a parent wanting to protect their child, wanting their child to have the best outcome in life.
Well,
So
he pretty much said, if you don't go to university, you will never amount to anything. That was another thing he said to me. And I was talking to this, with mentoring someone today, a young Year 12 student, and I was pretty much saying, look, it was kind of assumed that I would finish finish school and go to university. There was no other option. And I'm glad I did, because of course, it's much more difficult for someone who's completely blind to sort of do unskilled work. But yeah, but I think it has helped me, and because now I've got a really good work ethic, and I won't watch TV until I finished all the tasks I've allotted to myself to do for the day. Or, I learned very early on, you don't run out and play until you've done your homework. That comes first, and work comes first. And yeah, so I suppose I've grown up with a strong work ethic, but I guess the flip side of that is I can be very hard on myself, and I do often fret that I'm not good enough.
you're not alone with that one, though, are you?
Oh, no, true. But I think sometimes as a blind person, I feel like the standards are higher. Like, I'm having people over to my house tonight, and I'm sure if I was a sighted person and people came over and the house was perhaps not perfectly tidy, people wouldn't bat an eyelid. But I feel as a blind person, I feel a bit judged, as if they say, "Oh, poor thing, she couldn't keep her house tidy, or she couldn't clean her house properly. Oh, poor thing, it's because she's blind." But if I was sighted, no one would really bat an eyelid. Oh, well, she's just a bit untidy. That's okay.
That's an interesting perspective. And I realised I might have sounded a bit offhand when I said that you're not alone.
Not at all.
I,
Not at all.
I was thinking that it is more common than people realise,
Oh yeah.
just, and it's interesting, isn't it, about judgment? When I have people to my home, I run around, like, what? cleaning it and all those sorts of things. But you never know. People have so many different standards. But you're saying in some ways it's a bit more loaded. And what you
Yes.
don't want to tip into play is the feeling sorry for Amanda, because you are not, in my experience, someone to feel sorry for. You're someone to
No.
be inspired by, is my
Yeah.
experience of you.
Thank
Nothing
you.
like the victim that you're saying. And so how do you manage that then? Do you make an announcement? Because that would be kind of fun, wouldn't it? Look, if you're judging me about my house, be sure and let me know if there's something I need to do, because wouldn't that declare it out loud? Or do you think that's a bit outrageous to do that?
I've never been brave enough to do that, but it does remind me of a story, and I'm putting my hands out here because I'm always worried, am I in the center of the frame? That's another thing. If someone else is a bit off center, it doesn't matter, but the blind person has to be perfect. Anyway, so sorry, that was that was a bit
I
flippant,
think
but
that's relevant. You're right.
but
And
it reminds me of a story of when I was at work. My blindness never came up, so I'm dealing with this guy and on over the phone and whatnot, and he had to send me a photo to attach to an affidavit, and he faxed it to me. And back in the day, faxes weren't particularly always clear, and so I showed it to my sighted colleague, and she said, "Oh, it's a blob with arms and legs. You should tell him that you can see as much of it as he can, and you're blind." And I did, stupidly did, and the guy didn't talk to me for 2 years.
oh my goodness.
He would not talk to me for 2 years. He would ring my supervisor and refuse to talk to me. But eventually he forgave me. And it's like, no, I'm not gonna do that to anyone anymore. Yeah.
No, you've taken on your own discernment, not someone else's, is what you're
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, lovely. So you studied, moving on, and you studied physiotherapy. Where did you go to study that, Amanda?
Well, this was back in 1988 and pre-Disability Discrimination Act in Australia. And we approached all the colleges in Sydney and Melbourne, and they threw up their hands and went, "Oh, good grief, no, we can't train you. You're blind. How could we possibly do that? Give us, 5 years." And so the only place I could study was the North London School of Physiotherapy, which was a school specially set up in the UK to train blind physios. So that's where I had to go.
So you moved countries, moved everything to go and study physiotherapy. My goodness. And how many years was it? 3 or 4 year degree back then?
Three,
Three.
because it wasn't a degree; it was a diploma
Oh,
in
diploma
physiotherapy. So
back
it
in
was
those
3 years, yeah.
Okay.
But
And
unfortunately, about 18 weeks in, did I cut you off, by the way? Sorry.
no, well, no, go ahead. Do you mean 18 weeks in after you qualified, or?
No, 18 weeks into the course,
Oh, right.
they
Okay.
had an assessment. It was like assessment to see how everyone was going. And so we had to raise, it cost £16,000 a term
Wow.
for the education and the tuition. Mum had to sell her car to raise the money. And so I went over there, and 18 weeks into the course, we did this assessment, and I didn't do very well on some parts of it, moving equipment around a ward, and setting up a patient on various equipment. I didn't do very well. Academically topped the class, and they pulled me in and said, "Right, no, you can't continue your studies. You need to come back to Australia and do something more academic because you have what's called spatial awareness problems," which I'd never heard of before. But it practically means never give me a tray or a bowl of soup, because I will spill everything, because I'm holding the tray thinking it's level, but actually I'm tipping it, or the bowl of
Yes.
soup, or the very full glass of liquid or whatnot. So that translates into getting lost in large gymnasiums and swimming pools and things like that. But the crazy thing is, if you were able to get through the course and pass and qualify, most blind physios, in fact, all totally blind physios, go into private practice. They don't practice in hospitals. They
Correct.
They do backs, necks, and knees. They don't teach people how to walk. They don't do all the things they told me I couldn't do. But there was a bit of political tug of war between two different organisations, and so they were pulling people into the course and then throwing them out.
Oh my gosh. So it wasn't just a discrimination issue. It went deeper than that
Yeah.
in the yes, in the politically academic world. Has anything changed to your knowledge these days?
They've shut the school, and now physios are trained in the regular physio schools where they should be.
Oh, that's fantastic. Gosh, that's good to know.
Yeah.
And so then tell me what happened. You came back to Australia and how did you then migrate into law?
Well, when I left school, my father very wisely said to me, "You've got, good marks. Enroll in something in university and defer for it for a year." I don't know whether he had a sixth sense or what, but and I went, "Oh, why would I do that? I'm going to be physio." And he went, "Well, just enroll, doesn't hurt, and defer for a year. If everything's going fine, you can just cancel it." And I was like, "All right." So I didn't know what I wanted to do, had no idea, because I wanted to be a physio. So I picked commerce because it had something to do with numbers and I was good at maths. And so I enrolled in commerce and deferred it for a year and forgot about it. And then when I had to come back to Australia in January 1989, because of course the English academic year starts in September. So I was there from September 88 till January 89, came back to Australia and started my commerce degree. And then before I'd left the UK, I was sitting in my aunt's lounge room and crying, saying, "All I've ever wanted to be was a physio. I don't know what to do." She said, "You've got a good brain. Why don't you study law?" And I went, "Oh, I don't know what lawyers do, but okay." So I came back to Australia and approached the university and said, "Well, can I change my degree to law?" And they went, "No, you didn't have the marks to get in." So that's fine. Studied the first 2 years of commerce and forgot about it. And then in my second year of commerce, I did introductory business law and I loved it. Absolutely loved it. And I thought, actually, my aunt said I should study law. So I had been getting a credit average and approached the dean of the law school and he said, "Yes, you can study law, but we don't like people doing straight law degrees. We like them to do a combined degree. So you can pick up law and do a combined commerce law degree," which is what I did.
Oh, that's absolutely brilliant. And how old were you when you came back home? Can you give us a bit of a rough timeline?
So I finished school. I was at 17. I was quite young for my year. Spent most of 1988 when I was 18 doing voluntary work. Then went over in September to the UK. Came back to Australia and started studying commerce when I was 19.
Wow. Now, just have another question that I've thought about in this moment. Had you done much world traveling? Because back in 88, it was pretty ordinary. It wasn't like we have now. And had you done that landscape, if you like, before?
My parents had gone to England with me when I was 6.
Okay.
And it was interesting. We landed at London Airport when I was 6. And I remember the smell because you always land at like 6 in the morning.
Yes.
And I've only ever been over there in the winter. And I landed there at 6 o'clock and it had this sort of, I don't know, damp smell. And landed there again in 1988 in September. So it was a little bit warmer, but it's still cold at 6 o'clock in the morning. And I said to Mum, "Oh, it smells the same." Went back in 1992, still smells the same.
Oh,
So,
isn't that wonderful? Well,
yeah.
that's just incredible. That's fabulous. So then you did your law degree and your commerce degree and with honours. Then what did you do? How did you decide? I suppose you figured that out. What sort of law did you want to practice?
Well, at those times at the ANU, it was very much any lawyer worth their salt goes into the private sector. And if you can't get into the private sector, you're obviously a second-rate lawyer and then you join government. And so I wrote 147 job applications to private sector law firms and private companies. and I had the help of a company to do that called JobSolve, who normally did supported employment. And I said to them, right, I don't want anyone to know you exist. All you do is print off the letters and send them out. You don't
Okay.
come to interviews. You don't contact my employer. You don't exist. You're just doing admin for me. And they went, okay. So 147 job applications later, one of them went to a private sector law firm who was like a one-man law firm. And I got a phone call from a lady that I had studied law with, Janine. And she
Oh,
said,
really?
oh, Amanda, my husband just got one of your job applications and he can't employ you because there's only him. But my contract at Comcare is about to end. Would you be interested in coming to work for us, coming in for an interview? And I said, what's Comcare? And she said, oh, well, we deal with Commonwealth workers' compensation. And I went, great, sure. Went in, interviewed, got the job, and worked there for 4 years, I think. Yeah. And then I'd applied to get into the Attorney General's department when I left ANU because that was the only government employment that was considered like prestigious, a cadetship at the Attorney General's department. And there were 11 positions and I was ranked 12th.
Oh,
I was
wow.
absolutely devastated that I didn't get in.
Not
But
you.
eventually I did get into the Attorney General's department. That's where I finished my career as a legislative drafter.
So how long did it take you to get, like you were number 12, so did you have to go through another process? What happened?
I went and worked for Comcare for 4 years, and then I worked. They said if I wanted to get a job in the Attorney General's department, I needed more policy experience. So then I went and worked for the Department of Employment and Workplace Relations in legal policy, which I absolutely hated, and it was there that I was bullied, and it was horrible. Then I went to Commonwealth DPP. That's right, because I just wanted to get out. So I applied for this job and it was a promotion. So I got into DPP. Loved that. That was fantastic. That was getting evidence for international trials, getting evidence
Oh, interesting.
to yeah for to no sorry it was getting evidence from overseas to help us in our trials.
Right.
So yeah,
Fascinating.
so that was actually, and I was one of the first people to do taking evidence via video link before Zoom was a thing. Used to cost thousands, tens of thousands of dollars to get evidence out of the House of Lords via video link into Australia, and I got to do that, which was pretty cool. And so then the job as a legislative drafter came up, and I applied for that, and I got that. And that's how I got into the Attorney General's department. So it took a long time.
But you eventually, and once again, your persistence, your resilience, all of that earlier work paid off, didn't it? You
Yeah.
you
I had
got what
7
you
years there and
wanted.
it was great.
That's fantastic. And what happened? What changed for you to leave that?
Well, there used to be two agencies that drafted legislation only in the Commonwealth. All the states are all combined, but we had one that drafted regulations and determinations and one that drafted acts and bills. And so then it was decided that those two agencies should be combined into one, and they decided that they needed to get rid of 7 drafters. And
Ooh,
people would say to me, oh, are you worried about losing your job? And I went, of course not. I'm blind, I'm a woman, and I'm a union delegate. They wouldn't dare. But they did. I had to reapply for my job. And I was so convinced, this is my job. Why should I have to reapply for my job? They did what's called a spill and fill. So all the drafters had to apply for their jobs again, and they took the top, however many they needed. And I didn't do what I normally did when I apply for jobs and put my whole heart and soul into the application. I tried. And at the interview, all I wanted to do was get down on my knees and beg and say, please, please, please let me keep my job. But of course, I couldn't. Well, I didn't, thankfully. And yeah, so I wasn't in the top 4 or top however many they had.
yeah.
And so I was offered a redundancy, which ended up being the best thing that ever happened to me.
In what way? Say more. That's exciting.
Well, I'd been unhappy in my job for a while because I was at the top of my level and I couldn't understand why I couldn't get a promotion. And I was applying for them and I just wasn't getting them and I couldn't understand why. And because I wasn't particularly happy, I didn't understand to be, what is the saying? To go up, you have to grow up and you have to show up. But I wasn't willing to do a jot more than what I was being paid to do because I was unhappy and I was disillusioned and I was sick of being there. But I thought I'd specialised too much and I couldn't apply for other jobs. I used to look at them and get ecstatic every week and go, oh, maybe I could do this or do that. And then I think, oh, no, I've been drafting legislation for 7 years. I'm too specialised. I can't change now. And so I was stuck there. And so I was unhappy. And so the redundancy forced my hand and I had the choice. I could either leave in March 2014 with a substantial, reasonable payment, big payment for 17 years of work, or I could stay there for another 3 months and they could try and find jobs for me, which, good luck. There was a job freeze on. And then I would get half the payment. So I decided to leave early. And that started me on a journey. I'd always wondered why I'd been put on this earth. Why am I here? I don't know. So it started me off on this journey. I didn't have to work anymore. I had this redundancy payment that I was living off. I'd paid off the mortgage. I had my superannuation and my blind pension. I was doing okay. So, what am I going to do for the rest of my life? Why am I here? So I retrained as a John C. Maxwell speaker, trainer and coach. And I sold skincare through a network marketing company. And I did that very badly. And I used to buy skincare so that I could meet my goals and try and get to the next level. I used to buy all this product. And now 10 years later, I've thrown it all away. All this extra
That was
stuff
going to
that I
be
had.
the next question, what happened to that,
Threw it all away, gave it away. And so, then I retrained as a John C. Maxwell speaker, trainer and coach and started coaching. And then I bumped into another coach and I was talking to her and saying, why isn't my career coaching business taking off? I don't understand. And so we realized that career coaching wasn't my passion. My passion was to inspire and encourage others. And that is my life's purpose. That's why I've been put here. So my redundancy helped me discover that.
How wonderful. Which is why you call yourself a life purpose expert.
Yes.
That's absolutely fabulous. And what happened? What was the feeling when you knew that, because sometimes there's a real line in the sand. When I speak to people, and certainly for myself, I'm absolutely in that same situation. I'm right in my flow. This is what I'm meant to be doing. Was there a moment for you that you could say, Mary, I knew on this day, this was what I was destined to do for the rest of my life?
Absolutely. If I looked back at the calendar, I could probably tell you the date. I was on a cruise ship. I was lying on my bed and I went back on a journey. It's almost like I don't know, almost like a waking dream. Went back on a journey back through my life and I discovered these themes that I was really good at speaking. I was really good at encouraging and inspiring people. I did that without thinking. I was, so they were kind of the two big themes. I was really good at listening to people and reading between the lines and hearing what they were really saying and reflecting back, which was coaching. And it all came together. And I thought, my life's purpose is to inspire and encourage others to discover their life's purpose.
That's awesome.
I sat bolt upright and I sat on the edge of the bed. And Mum said, what's wrong? And I said, I've got it. I know why I'm here. I know what I'm meant to do. So, so
wonderful.
I remember it like it was yesterday. That was back in October 2018, I believe it was.
That is brilliant. And you've gone on, you've created a program What's the name of your program that you've got that you get people into your program? What's that called, Amanda?
It's called the Purpose Vision Future program.
Ooh,
So you discover your purpose,
yeah.
you see the vision for your future, and then you create that future.
Oh, how exciting. And how long's the course?
It's 12 weeks. It consists of a combination of an online self-paced course, and periodically through that course, it's like videos that you watch and exercises that you do, self-reflection exercises. And at certain points through that course, you have a 1 hour, you have 3 1 hour coaching sessions with me to unpack what you're doing. And then once you've completed the course, you then have a 90-minute Discover Your Life's Purpose coaching session where
Oh,
we pull everything together. We talk about what your life's purpose might be and how you might decide to put that into action.
that's fantastic. And just for the listeners, we will put all of Amanda's links, etc., so you can learn more about this. But I thought that was a natural progression to tell you about how important life purpose is, and from an expert's perspective. Now let's digress a little bit. You're also a published author. Tell us the name of your book and why you wrote it.
I think hopefully I've got this up the right way.
You do indeed. Oh, wow. Seeing by vision, not by sight. Beautiful.
Yep. And
Love
the
it.
subtitle is How to Discover Your Life's Purpose and Put It into Action.
Yes.
So, yeah, this book is my journey reverse engineered into a 3-step process, which is covered in the course. And examine your present, examine your past, and examine your passions and dreams. And that's how you discover your purpose. And so this book outlines my journey, and it illustrates those 3 steps with my story, as well as a number of clients that I've coached through the process.
That's fantastic. Now, I notice on the cover, and I think I saw it on the back as you turned it around, there's a lighthouse. What's the significance of that?
Well, when you discover your purpose, it shows you the way. It's something you can use to navigate. It helps you with every decision in your life. Does it align with my purpose? Yes, I'll do it. Does it? If not, no, I won't.
Oh, that's fabulous.
So it's like a light in the darkness. It shows you the way. It keeps you away from danger, from distraction. It lights you up. It gets you going. It's. I woke up this morning and it's like, yay! I get to be on Mary Scott's podcast. I'll jump out of bed and start my day.
Oh, that's
That's
lovely.
part of my purpose.
Yeah, absolutely. And you have your trusted assistant, Sadie. What sort of dog is she? Tell us a little bit about Sadie and how she helps you in your life. I'm sure you help her as well, by the way.
She's a cream-coloured Labrador. She's 11 years old, and she's still healthy and happy and working as a guide dog. And yeah, she takes me out. One of the ways I live out my purpose is as a lived experience presenter for guide dogs. So I do work for them. I was at their International Guide Dog Day event the other day and interviewed on local radio. I train Canberra's bus drivers every 2 weeks on how to make bus travel more accessible for people with blindness or vision loss, whether they have guide dogs or not. So yeah, so I do that work as well. And so Sadie takes me out and about to do that, and in also everyday life, going to the local club and going to the hairdresser.
Well, that's fantastic. Oh, you've frozen.
My best
Oh.
friend companion is lifelong companion.
Yes, that's right. You froze there just for a minute, but we got everything that you said. How many guide dogs have you had, Amanda?
Sadie is my 4th dog.
Oh, and have you had a favourite? Sadie, you've got to shut your ears. I know you're there. Don't listen to what Mum's saying about this.
I think she's got to be my favorite. She is. All my other guide dogs, like early on, they used to take donations of puppies from breeders, which were great. I've had 3 beautiful guide dogs. They were all donated dogs. They worked beautifully. They were great. But Sadie is the first purpose-bred dog. So now guide dogs breed their own dogs.
Oh,
And so Sadie's my first purpose-bred. And she has got to be the steadiest, as I said in the International Guide Dog Day story that is actually on the Guide Dogs Australian website. She's rock solid steady. She does her work. She doesn't get distracted. She's amazing.
oh, that's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. You know, there's another question I would like to invite you to answer, and one is about personal development. It seems to me, as someone listening to you today and also other conversations I've had with you, that you've lived through some kind of guiding principle. Is that a fair thing to say? And what would that be? You know, it seems like there's a bit of a common thread to, you know, you're talking about Sadie being steady as a rock, but there's something about you that I experience you as steady as a rock as well, Amanda. Your dog is reflecting you, by the way. Back to you. You seem pretty steady, focused, purposeful. Is it something that's always been you and how you have, or is it something that you've evolved? That was a bit of a messy question, wasn't it? Sorry.
No, that's fine. I think I've always had that. As I said, I think it's gone all the way back to, pulling my tubes out as a baby and them having to put tiny little mittens on me and trying to climb up the side of the crib and that sort of thing. I think I became a Christian when I was 16. I was always raised in a Christian family, but I discovered my own faith relationship when I was 16, and that has been a guiding force in my life. It's part of everything I do. I don't outwardly talk about it much in my program. I think I mentioned it twice, and don't expect anyone to take that on, but that is certainly a force in my life. My, I guess, stubbornness and where there's a will, there's a way kind of thing is also a force in my life. My very solid relationship with my family. My mum is my best friend. My 92-year-old mum is my best friend. And things are starting, our roles are reversing a little bit. I'm caring for more than she's caring for me now. But, I know that my family's there and they love me. And so I've got some solid foundations there. But you mentioned personal growth. I think personal growth is one of the most important things. I've been working on myself since before I left work, actually. I worked with my first coach when I was being bullied. And my self-esteem was non-existent back then, and she sort of helped me build that up until I was able to walk into the office of the bully and say, your management style is making me ill, which it was, and I want to transfer to a different section because I cannot work with you anymore, and I want to transfer to a different section and work with someone else until I get another job. And thankfully she said yes, and then it turned out her health crashed and she left anyway. And I think that's the reason why she was bullying me, was she was very unwell herself. Not that that's an excuse.
How gutsy is that? Woo-hoo to you.
So, yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Yes, it does.
So I've been doing personal growth since probably 2010-ish. So yeah, working on myself. Sometimes I forget just how far I've come and how self-aware I've become. I forget that my poor clients are just at the beginning of that journey, some of them.
Yes, that's interesting, isn't it? And, I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, I think you were born with this resilience, steadfastness, and I don't know, I've got a feeling you had a purpose back then, maybe it's a soul purpose for that little girl who had to have the mittens on and things, I have this image in my mind, it's quite vivid, of this strong little girl that has now, evolved into this I experience you as a very powerful woman, and I think that you hold yourself very well in terms of who you are in your community. The fact that you are working so closely with, teaching bus drivers and all of them about their awareness, you've done keynote speaking, all those things are testament to the woman that you have become or evolved more and more into this wonderful, inspiring woman. Would you like to say one last thing that's important to you before we finish off today?
Oh gosh, sorry, I have to take a minute.
No, that's
thank
fine.
you. Thank you very much. That's touched me deeply, what you've just said. If you discover your purpose, your life's purpose, you discover the thing that you've been put on the earth to do. You've discovered the thing that lights you up, that gives you joy, that helps you through the hard times. And if you don't discover your purpose, feel free to cut this out if you don't like it. If you don't discover your purpose, I believe you are marking time until you die, because you are not being the best version of you that you can be.
Well said. And by the way, I don't cut things out because I love authenticity, and you couldn't be more authentic than you are in this moment. Amanda Hill, you are a superstar to me, and you inspire me, and I'm sure you'll inspire our audience. I thank you so much for being with us today and sharing your story. There's so many elements there that we probably could have talked another couple of hours on, but thank you. This has been a marvelous experience for me, and I feel much richer. Like I said, I knew a little bit, and I think you're absolutely a shining light out there in the world, and thanks again for participating. I love it.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're so welcome.
This week's episode has come to an end, but the fun doesn't have to stop here. If you have any questions, suggestions, or feedback, head over right now to Twitter and Facebook and like, share, and get involved. Join us next time.